Once we understand the mistakes we're making are pretty basic and universal ones, we can begin to correct them, and spiritual paths like A Course in Miracles are around to walk us through how to correct them. Many of us react to anything smelling of spirituality as woo-woo. If we prejudge something, we don't understand that which we're judging. I would say that A Course in Miracles, at least, is in fact a very pragmatic resource. It offers practical procedures for healing from whatever form of suffering one is experiencing. It also puts forward a completely logical and reasonable theory, which it explains in exhaustive detail to anyone who cares to listen, to legitimize the use of these procedures for healing. Anyone who appreciates critical thinking will appreciate acim if they stay with it long enough. I have read it almost a dozen times now, in part to integrate the logic and reason of its argument past the cognitive dissonance in my own mind. I would assume that all other spiritual traditions are also very practical, when understood correctly. And I'm making a distinction between spiritual and religious here. A Course in Miracles doesn't use fear to coerce us into believing its words. Its tone is more, you might want to reconsider some basic facts for the sake of your own peace of mind. I haven't taken the time to understand other spiritual traditions that deeply, because I'm getting the truth from this path. But anytime I do dip my toes in another spiritual teaching, I find it aligns with acim's teachings. It's not all that important who you get the truth from. If it's the truth that sets you free, it's only important that you know it. Our first mistake is our simple misunderstanding of how perception works. And that's being cleared up by the scientists as we speak. If we want to believe it someday, we have to start by giving it our attention. I'm here partly to reassure you that by knowing this truth, you will be comforted as you look out on the state of the world today. Our second mistake is not understanding that we're misunderstanding perception. Projection is an accusation that we hurl around at other people all the time, but we don't get that it's just a fact about perception, which means we ourselves are doing it too. In fact, in the very moment we're pointing out that others are doing it, we're doing it. I'm doing it now. We're so distracted by looking at other people's egos that we ourselves have projected onto them, and because we were distracted, we forgot to take accountability for our own projections. And it is an innocent mistake. Seeing something wrong isn't an intentional process. It's not a conscious decision. The last thing Jesus wants is for us to feel guilty about it. I'll explain much more about that later. There's a lot of space between taking responsibility for something and feeling guilty about it. Jesus wants us to take accountability for our misperceptions simply so they can be corrected. As the world grows increasingly chaotic, I'm observing that many of us are solving the problem by sticking our heads even deeper in the sand. I just won't look at the evil out there in the world anymore. If that brings you greater peace of mind, then I'm fully in support of the project. I went on a complete news fast while I was doing the workbook for A Course in Miracles. It did help me to refocus my attention on my inner world, where the real stuff is happening. But that only corrects for the external stimuli. If in addition to this, we begin to watch our minds like a hawk and stop hooking onto the grievance thoughts and judgment thoughts that arise from our own personal dramas, then in time, we can essentially unplug the projector, or more precisely, switch it permanently to extension mode. The first and essential step is acknowledging the projector is there. Quote, "The reason you must look upon your delusions and not keep them hidden is that they do not rest on their own foundation. In concealment, they appear to do so, and thus they seem to be self-sustained. This is the fundamental illusion on which they rest. For beneath them, and concealed as long as they are hidden, is the loving mind that thought it made them in anger. And the pain in this mind is so apparent when it is uncovered that its need of healing cannot be denied. None of the tricks and games that have been offered it can heal it, for here is the real crucifixion of God's Son." End quote. As humans, we prefer quick fixes, but pragmatically speaking, quick fixes don't work because they only offer temporary relief. If we give up on a healing path before we've really seen it through, whatever healing path it is, it doesn't really matter. We cannot say with honesty that the healing path didn't work. We abandoned the path. The path didn't abandon us. That would be a particularly illogical form of projection. When I present my chosen path to my clients, I give them the following disclaimers. There will be a lot of mental and emotional fatigue along the way. Ego backlash is a very real phenomena that one should expect some discomfort from throughout the process. As you go down this path, however, you do become increasingly aware and confident of the fact that everything is happening to you is ultimately happening for your benefit. It always was, but now you are aware of it, and you will increasingly divert your attention from thoughts of victimization to thoughts of what is the true meaning of this. Quote, you too will interpret the function of time as you interpret yours. If you accept your function in the world of time as healing, you will emphasize only the aspect of time in which healing can occur. For healing cannot be accomplished in the past, and must be accomplished in the present to release the future. This interpretation ties the future to the present and extends the present rather than the past. But if you interpret your function as destruction, you will lose sight of the present and hold on to the past to ensure a destructive future. And time will be as you interpret it, for of itself it is nothing. End quote. Correcting our beliefs takes some time because of how beliefs get made, which is essentially by thinking the same thing over and over and over. The process of healing involves learning to deny one's attention to thoughts, which are detrimental to one's sense of peace, joy, and love. When we begin to do this consistently, we begin to extend with the Holy Spirit. We run our projectors through a filter of love. Practically speaking, this is how healing works. I will talk about a subject called quantum forgiveness tomorrow to shine a light on what this true healing process actually looks like. We can wish that healing could happen more quickly, but realistically, it does take some time to transform our beliefs and to stabilize a better new belief system. Thank you for your time.